This video is to show how to create a composite from two separate photographs. We will be working with the Bayou photo and the boat photo that should be on the resources from your page for this week. Mine are here. We'll open, and we open both at the same time, the Bayou and the boat. Now the main goal is to get the boat, which we have here, into the Bayou photo. So first we'll go to a marquee. You can certainly use the lasso tool, probably the better tool to use, because you can trim around the boat pretty closely. Don't worry about getting too close, because we will be using the mask, layer mask tool, to assist in hiding parts of the boat that we don't need when we get into the other photo. Again, we'll get in pretty tightly here, and we'll just simply go to Edit, Copy, then click on the Bayou photo and do Edit, Paste. Now, the first thing is that the boat is a little too large for the graphic, the Bayou graphic. And notice how we have a water line in the boat picture. I generally like to line that up with the water line in the picture that I'm pasting into. So we will go to Edit, Free Transform, and I'll hold the Shift key down to make sure that the boat picture doesn't distort. See, if I don't hold the Shift key down, this could happen. But I'll hold the Shift key down, and probably about that size would be good. Then when I'm happy with it, I double click inside the picture, the boat picture, and we're good to go. Now at this point you can go back to the boat one, close it without saving if it asks you to. And you'll notice under your layers palette we now have the background and the boat layer. We will need, now that we're on the boat layer, matter of fact we can double click this and name it boat, so that we can always know which layer we're on. Go to the layer palette, go layer mask, reveal all. Now I believe we talked a little bit about this earlier, but what that does is it allows you to, rather than erasing the image, you have a layer mask to the right of the main layer, and here we're simply covering up the image without removing it permanently. So I'm going to zoom in, and you can do this any number of ways. Command plus certainly works probably best. And notice that we have white and black. This is very important. Now depending on how they're arranged, it will determine which of these tools you use, either the eraser or the airbrush. In this instance, using the eraser will mask, because black is in the background. Let's go get a smaller eraser tool, something a little bit smaller here, and probably go ahead and let it be hard like that. Now notice that it looks like we are erasing the image. However, if I go to Layer Mask Disable, that area comes back. Go back to Layer Mask Enable. That now shows again the masking. And if you were to look here, you'll see there's a little bit of black showing up on the layer mask. Now we'll continue to do this. Now I find it's useful to get the largest brush possible or eraser possible and just go around the edge that I need. Now here where the water line is, I'm actually going to use what's called a slight opacity change and a softer brush. So we're going to change the opacity to about 38%, and here I'm going to mask over the cut edge of the water so that the two, and see, I can click and hold and move the tool across it. Then when I release, it will start erasing a little bit more. The reason I'm doing this is that there's a little bit of a choppy white water ahead of the boat, and I want to keep that because that would occur on this water. Now I can go back to a harder brush, change the hardness over to 100%, change the size a little bit smaller. Go ahead and put the opacity back to 100%, and then let me zoom in a little bit more here. And if you hold the Shift key down, if you have kind of a straight line to mask, you can hold the Shift key down and just move between the areas. Now again, if you go, oh, I covered up, I took away too much of the boat. Go to your airbrush or your eraser, whichever the case may be, and just basically take away from the mask. See here, we can add it back. Now let me show you, if we reverse these two, excuse me, let me cancel that. Let's reverse these two. Swap, this is the reverse tool. Now if I'm on the airbrush, it takes away instead of adding. So we'll have to actually use the opposite tool. So that's the most important key. If the foreground is black and the background is white, the eraser adds back and the airbrush removes. Now this is entirely up to you. Now we'll show you this too. If you're, for some reason, you're on a gray, maybe your program preset to that, it will not be 100% masking. It'll only be 50% or whatever percentage that gray is. So be aware you need to have solid black and solid white in order for this to work. So let me go back and just restore that. And again, it may be easier for you to work with the white in the foreground because that seems a little more logical to most students. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you a little bit about how to get into the finer detail. You'll need a smaller brush, much smaller, probably about 9 pixels, and you're going to go along and you're going to, and I'm holding the Shift key down between these clicks so that I can follow the metal railing of the boat pretty closely. Here's the anchor. And again, you don't have to be terribly tight on this, but you know, do take some pains with it to try and make it as believable as possible. All right, so this is how you do that. You'd have to go around the man's face, around here. This is part of the console in the boat, navigational console, I believe. Zoom out a little bit. Yeah, there's the canopy. We're basically trying to remove all of the background from the original boat picture without getting rid of the boat or the captain of the boat, I suppose you'd call him. Now, it might be easier to turn off the background sometimes to just see what you've done. Again, remember, you'll switch tools to add back to your mask, and you'll clean all of this up. Now, the last thing, let's just imagine I've fixed everything. What I want to do is on the background layer, I want to do what's called a burn. Now what that's going to do for us is set the boat down in the water a little bit, as if the boat has cast a shadow into the water below it. So let's get kind of a large brush, but then let's change the exposure to somewhere below 50%, maybe 40%. And we're in the background layer, remember. And we're going to run this back and forth. Now see how this, and especially over here, because this is the dark side of the boat, and if it were to reflect into the water, even though that's choppy water, it would set it down on that side. Now I wouldn't make a very strong shadow per se. And if you feel like you've gotten too dark, just do the undo and step backwards several times to get some of that out. Just a little bit will do, not too much. And so then once we've got that, this is kind of my final notice. And I actually did not just only the burn, but I did a dodge to lighten the water a little bit, as if the boat was reflecting the light side of the boat as well. So this is just one way of doing that. And notice how I erased up into the the gear up there, the different rods that were on the top of the boat. And if you need to change the exposure, you can do that with this. If you wanted to lighten the background, let's say we're in the background layer, you can go to Edit, or excuse me, Image, Adjust Levels, and here you can actually take, just on the output levels, you can lighten the whole photo, which might make the boat seem more logical to be added, and also have the boat pop out a little bit more. So I don't think I did that in mine, but if you feel like you need it, certainly go ahead and do that. You can also adjust midtones here, or stronger shadows or stronger highlights. And that's just for the background layer, whichever layer you're on, that is. So let's cancel that. So hopefully this helps you understand a little bit about how to do that. Again, once you're through, once you're happy with your file, go to Save As, choose JPEG, and we'll probably say copy. Just call it, like I said, Bayou Composite with your name. First initial, last name is fine. And email to me or drop it onto the resource assignment submission. I think last week you had some trouble with submission through the resource or assignment area, so that's perfectly all right if you have to email to me again. And be aware that I know this is a holiday week, so we really, the students that are conventional students or traditional students are actually on campus 2 days this week. However, being online, I'm going to give you until the following Wednesday. So you have a week from this Wednesday to get this finished, and that will be reflected in the assignment sheet. So do have a good holiday, and don't eat too much turkey, or if you're in Hawaii, too much of the roasted pig, whatever you're going to eat. Have a great holiday, and I'll be looking forward to your submissions.